Hello and welcome to the final episode of my 4-part series on why you should not immigrate to England and teach. My name is Mr. Rufail and I taught high school geography for 8 years in Australia, New Zealand, the UAE and the UK. But on the 15th of December 2023, I quit teaching in England once and for all and experienced a euphoria so profound I almost cried walking home from school for the last time. Was it really that traumatizing, you may wonder? Let's just say I'd rather shove electric eels where the sun doesn't shine twice a day than teach in England again. Because there's a very good reason why you read articles describing lessons in sheds, burnt out teachers, ruined pupils, England's school crisis. England's school system would no longer be able to meet its statutory obligations to young people en masse, particularly for children with special education needs and disabilities. By the end of this series, these kind of articles will no longer surprise you. So heed my warning. I am trying all I can to spare you, my international brothers and sisters in Christ, from being subjected to the trauma of teaching in England. Think of this series as the alarm, and this as the snooze button.
It's not all bad. You'll find many teachers in England love what they do, and in fact many other countries also have problems, so there is no reason to make such warnings. Everything is fine. International teachers should be encouraged and feel welcome to make the move.
Like the other episodes, I'll continue to use the same in-text reference system I use in my 2 documentaries. One is a 3-part documentary on the COVID pandemic, and the other is on the climate crisis. Link in the description. Here's how it works. I'll show you a source. For example, this 2023 article on the teacher recruitment crisis titled, "Teacher Recruitment Crisis Looms in England as Only Half of Needed Trainees Enlisted. Without an urgent policy response to make teaching more attractive, schools will face increasingly intense shortages over the next few years, which are likely to impact negatively on the quality of people's education." It's bad here. But again, none of these articles will surprise you by the end of this series. But hopefully you notice in the top right corner a number displayed. If you want to research a source yourself, you need to find that number from the list of sources in the description, and voila, you'll be able to investigate my claims as I make them. My objective is to make you realize that the case I'm presenting to you is not subjective. You and I will experience the same outcomes as thousands before us.
It'll happen to you.
I just want you to have a well-informed and fair insight before making any reckless decisions like immigrating to England. Now, this series is broken into 4 parts. The first 3 parts are why you should avoid teaching in England, with the first 2 specific to teachers and the third a general reason, and the fourth are how I think these problems can be solved. If you haven't seen the first 3 episodes, please do, or else you'll miss all the references I'm making and a lot of the context, and virtually all the impact of this video will be lost on you. I'll put them in the description. With the introduction now done, let's go into how we could solve this crisis. You might be thinking that you don't need me to offer any kind of solution, that you've got it sorted. But I offer something that the English, struggling desperately to solve the teacher shortage crisis in Britain, don't have. Perspective. Just like it's impossible to see the whole forest while you're stuck among the trees, when you're living the problem, it's hard to see it clearly. Things that are wrong might seem normal because you're used to them. But to someone outside the problem, those same problems can be blatantly obvious. Just like how Americans, when they make tea, don't use an electric kettle, they use the microwave. To the American, it's normal, but to others, this screams absurdity.
What are you doing?
Why are you looking at me weird?
In Scotland, we use the kettle to make tea, not the microwave.
Sadhguru made an excellent point which illustrates this brilliantly.
Our nose is located right above our mouth. Suppose you don't brush your teeth for 3 days. Though this nose is right here, it won't tell you you have not brushed your teeth. The whole room will know you have not brushed your teeth, but you will not know. This is the human predicament.
Britain can try as hard as it wants to fix its education system and reverse the teacher shortage, but they have no perspective and even less self-awareness. Take attendance, for example. According to the British, how do they solve it? If you haven't seen episode 2 yet, basically, parents in England no longer see daily school attendance as vital, so thousands of kids are missing school and not getting an education. This is because they either straight out refuse to go to school, or kids are being taken out of school by their parents to go on holiday during term time because it's cheaper, which accounts for the record 350,000 parents in England fined over term time holidays with children. But the parents either complain to the news about these fines, and in at least one case even fought it in court, with other more smooth-brained individuals sending their own fines back to schools and demand that teachers pay them. So basically, English people don't value their education, so attendance drops. Now, here's how England is trying to solve the problem. How about extending the school day to cut absences? That makes sense. Make the day longer. Attendance will go right up. Kids will think, oh my word, longer school days, I'm there. That's their first solution. Their second, you may wonder, make shorter days to get some pupils back. That makes sense. Make the day shorter. Attendance will go right up. Kids will think, oh my word, shorter days, I'm there. What they need is perspective, and I can help a bit in that regard. I am comparing schools in England with 3 other countries. England is the worst by far, but I'm saying that as a man with roots in North Africa, born in Oceania, and currently living in Europe after leaving Asia in 2022. I offer the British insight as a foreigner, take it or leave it, because the current English approach to this crisis is to throw taxpayer money at people till they become teachers, and then to lie to the public that teaching in England is somehow rewarding with the dishonest Get Into Teaching campaign.
This is you on your first day as a teacher.
Anybody?
This is a class you'll inspire.
Alien?
No,
Life.
really inspire. This is a lesson you'll learn from her, him, and then here's the day you're put to the test.
And this is the day we bring it home!
These are all the lives you'll shape. This is the one you'll shape the most.
Like that's ever gonna happen. What a logic!
That is so wrong. I really resent this commercial. It's such misinformation. These commercials propagate the harmful stereotype that English people are civilized in their teenage form, and you'll be experiencing an overwhelming and meaningful feeling of fulfillment from being a teacher in England. Watch episode 2 if you want to know how you'll actually experience teaching in England.
What's a strange habit you picked up from work?
Look how they're lying to you in these commercials. Your recruitment agencies will never warn you, but I will. Here's what an honest commercial would look like.
They say teaching in England is rewarding, a career where you inspire young minds, command respect, and go home feeling fulfilled. But the reality is far from the dream. Endless hours, relentless demands. It's not teaching, it's surviving.
I've seriously thought about leaving teaching altogether.
For many, the work never ends. The energy, gone. The passion, drained. There's no life beyond the school walls.
Just all exhausting, isn't it?
Oh gosh, I know.
And I know you guys do it, and it may be like man up, but it takes so much energy out of me. I mean, I'm asleep on the sofa most nights by 9, just lying there passed out, like I've got no life.
This is the reality inside many classrooms.
Guys.
Noise, disrespect, no time to teach, no time to breathe.
Get to their seats, please.
Stop it!
Okay, so back to your seats.
Imagine trying to teach when students don't care.
Joseph.
That is my name.
You actually look like one. So are you Jewish?
No, I'm not Jewish.
So
Okay.
he looks Turkish.
He actually doesn't. He doesn't look Turkish.
He does look like Turkish.
He looks Mauritian. No, not Mauritian. What is it? Cyprus.
When every effort to regain control is met with defiance.
Keisha.
What?
Girls.
It's only banter.
And it is banter.
I know it's only banter.
They laugh as your patience wears thin.
It's quite funny when he loses his temper.
He gets really frustrated and he goes, he's stressing.
His lips like go all in and like...
Even his bald bit goes bright red, everything. It's so funny.
For God's sake.
With every lesson, your authority erodes.
I can't talk to the back of your head.
Respect is rare. Tension is constant.
So I'm going to ask one more time, please turn around.
Every day it breaks you down. And you wonder, how much more can you take?
In the weaker moments, I think, can I do this?
You're scrutinized. Constantly. Your every move. Judged. Every moment. Measured. But the system isn't designed to help you.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't think about.
Okay. Right.
Oh dear.
This is the side they don't show you. They tell you it's rewarding, that you'll inspire future generations. But they never tell you the price you'll pay.
When it goes wrong, and especially when it goes spectacularly wrong, when your heart plummets, you've worked on this lesson. You've wanted it to be good. You're also concerned about the progress that these kids are showing, and then it falls to pot.
Before you get into teaching, ask yourself, can you endure this?
You tell me, does that resemble the Get Into Teaching commercial? Mine was made from actual footage from schools in England. Theirs was staged. If you viewed the first 3 episodes of this series, you'll know that I've painted a critical and grim reality of what teaching and living in England is really like. But now comes the part where I go from critical to constructive, because I'm going to share the strategies I think would fix virtually all the challenges I spoke about in episode 1 and 2, namely Ofsted and the abrasive nature of the British people. I'll be starting by addressing the challenges expressed in episode 1, Ofsted. In a nutshell, schools in England are at the clueless mercy of a watchdog group called Ofsted. This power-mad organisation has the influence to restrict funding, fire senior staff, and destroy reputations with as little as 1 to 2 words. Words like inadequate, which resulted in so much stress and shame that some head teachers like Ruth Perry committed suicide as a result. The intended purpose of Ofsted is to provide a rating system for parents to use to inform which school to take their kids to, as well as improving the overall quality of education. Unfortunately, Ofsted reports are worthless. The organisation understands nothing about education and young people, and it seems the whole purpose of Ofsted is to make the inspectors feel powerful as they wave their influence around to be as terrorising as possible. My solution to the Ofsted problem is very simple. Dissolve Ofsted. Allow this purposeless organisation to die. Do not give them any opportunities to reform or improve. Let it wither away and be forgotten. Schools must break free from its fear.
Get a load of this guy.
I know, right? Honestly, he's not impressing us at all, and he's on his way to being rated as inadequate. Unless he starts ticking all of our boxes and gets on our good side, we're going to turn him into an academy, fire him, and cut his funding.
Oh, scary! Oh, shiver my timbers! Shut up, man!
But what about the people who work for Ofsted? They'll lose their jobs and livelihoods. What should we do? Let's point a mirror at them and remind them that adult feelings must not be put before children's needs, says former Ofsted head. With Ofsted eradicated, schools will stop focusing on the wants of Ofsted inspectors and instead focus on the needs of students, teachers, and parents. This will restore the passion and enthusiasm of teachers. It will reduce marking to exams and assessments only. Kids can take their notes home and review what they've learned, which will mean they can revise better and achieve higher grades. And with all the unnecessary theatre out of the picture, teachers will finally have a healthy work-life balance and will no longer flee the profession by the thousands to escape the unnecessary workload and chronic Ofsted pandering. But with Ofsted disintegrated, what will you replace it with? A few things, actually. If you've ever been a teacher, you know that parents will typically make their decision of which school to go to through open days and orientation week. In open days, teachers showcase the subjects they teach, and parents and students get to sample the curriculum for the day. In orientation week, students get a trial run of the school to see how they like it. So the existing ways that schools advertise themselves can stay the same. No funding or changes needed. Add existing Facebook groups and word of mouth from the locals, and you've got a more accurate measure of which school to enroll your child than anything Ofsted can offer. As far as the quality of education, without an Ofsted rating to do the heavy lifting, schools will need to win parents over with results. That way, schools like the Abbey School, which Ofsted demoted and destroyed its reputation, would be celebrated for their noteworthy achievements. See episode 1 for that story. But I understand the desire for a quick rating system for parents. Nobody wants to spend hours visiting schools, asking questions, and investigating what each school offers before enrolling your kid there. You want that information already organized and condensed into a rating system that a quick glance is enough to judge. Well, tough luck. This is your kid. Pull your head out your ass and invest the time and effort into your child's education. That kid is your legacy, and depending on the effort you put in during their formative years, will either be your pride and joy or the reason you cry yourself to sleep every night. You at least owe it to your child to take their future seriously. Spending time on your children is more valuable than spending money on your children. And that is how I would solve the Ofsted problem. Dissolve them, leave almost nothing behind, except for one thing, their $200 million annual budget. We're going to use it to solve the second and much greater challenge the horrible behavior in English schools. In a nutshell, English students are the worst behaved in the world. They lie, steal, start fights, disrespect teachers and peers, don't value their education, and have zero resilience. How on earth are you going to solve that? If you've seen episode 2, you'll know that I believe the cause behind English kids' behavior is genetic in nature. So how do I expect to change something wired so deeply into them? Simple. We take the money from OFSTED's annual budget, so we're not increasing taxes at all, this budget already exists, and fund a series of social campaigns in an attempt to create a cultural shift. What you want to do is make it shameful, uncool, and unpopular to be a dumb, unhinged menace. But my social campaign has one essential guideline. Since English people are typically aggressive, confrontational, and not very considerate people, you can't exactly promote positive vibes and ask them, can you guys please be nice and friendly and respectful to everyone? No, they're dishonest, aggressive, angry people. So all you can do is find a way to direct that English force of depravity at the right people. Essentially, you want to influence the current generation with memes, myths, and slogans to focus their relentless spite and aimless outrage and fling it onto the degenerates who intentionally sabotage education of themselves and others by being disruptive, having tantrums, trying to waste class time, and stress the teacher. Ultimately, you want to reinstate old-school British values. But enough talk. Here's an example of some social campaigns I came up with.
Scientists don't fully understand what causes ass brain, but we do know the signs. It's a condition that affects more people than we realize, creeping into everyday life, silently sabotaging the future of those it infects. If your child disregards their education, that might be ass brain taking hold. Left unchecked, ass brain can disrupt not only their learning but also the learning of their peers. The result? A lifetime of missed opportunities. Lying can feel good in the moment, but if your child struggles with telling the truth, ass brain could be to blame. Ass brain swamps the prefrontal cortex, making honesty seem like an afterthought. Ass brain is not inevitable. It's preventable. And it starts with valuing your education, your community, and your integrity. Let's work together to stop the spread of ass brain.
And a campaign for trying your best and being ambitious.
We don't hear about it enough, but more and more people are showing the signs of something truly remarkable. It's called Decency Drive, and it's sweeping across classrooms, homes, and communities. Decency Drive affects those who value their education, show respect, and strive for greatness in every task they take on. It's a condition that leads to acts of responsibility, a sense of community, and a desire to leave the world a little better than they found it. Those affected by Decency Drive show kindness, empathy, and honesty in all that they do. It's contagious, spreading positivity to everyone around them. Decency Drive, it's not just a condition. It's a way of life. Let's celebrate those who are making a difference, one kind act at a time. Decency Drive spread kindness, respect, and responsibility. Together we can make the world a better place.
Now, imagine if arse brain became a part of British school culture through a series of social campaigns. And anyone who litters, blatantly lies to their teacher, doesn't complete any work, takes pride in being dumb, disrupts the class each and every opportunity they have, and basically any other kind of significant misbehavior gets diagnosed with arse brain by their peers. And conversely, students who do well in school being championed by their peers through memes. Do you think there'll be more or less reprehensible behavior after a term? If you disrupt the class on Monday period 1, and by period 4 memes circulate that you contracted arse brain in math, you'll probably overreact and have a tantrum, leading to more memes that you reach stage 2 arse brain in English period 6. You have a little meltdown and skip school for a few days in protest to show everyone that you're serious, but instead this confirms memes that you've reached stage 3 arse brain and have to get special arse brain treatment in Germany, which is why you didn't come to school for the rest of the week. Mate, you're going to stop being a pain real quick and start displaying positive or neutral behavior, which, for this social campaign to work, will then result in more memes that you've been cured of arse brain and now back to normal. As I mentioned in episode 1, Warren Buffett's right-hand man, Charlie Munger, famously said, "Show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome." So simple memes are a great social campaign, and they work. Here's episode 68 of PewDiePie's You Laugh, You Lose.
It can't be true. Please, someone tell me this isn't true. Oh yeah, I've seen this. Ninja walks like virgin. This is so sad. Nina can't be virgin. Nina can't be virgin! Wow, sorry I don't walk how society sees as Chad. It's how I effing walk. Stop calling me a virgin. The virgin walk. This meme has made me so aware of my posture. This meme has done more for my posture than anything I've anything ever could.
So poor posture is a target, the virgin walk meme is a social campaign, and the result was it shamed poor posture and promoted correct posture. You might have come across the there social campaign. This one meme likely influenced a tremendous amount of people to learn and use the theirs correctly. My Ask Brain campaign targets poor behavior and will result in misbehavior being shamed and good exemplary behavior being promoted. And the result is you'll find more of what is being promoted. Simple. It's either that, or parents can continue to sneak into schools and babysit their kids to stop them from disrespecting their teachers.
He went so red, there's nothing I can compare it to. Exasperated mother turns up unannounced at school and sits next to her 12-year-old son for maths class in desperate bid to stop him abusing staff.
These social campaigns should also target parents that put no effort in disciplining their children. They should be shamed also, for the good of the next generation and future of Britain. Now, I came up with my social campaigns quickly and for free. So what are we going to do with Ofsted's 200 million annual budget? Where's the money come in? It's the incentive. If you make the most effective social campaign that students use to police others, and it has resulted in a noticeable decrease in deplorable behaviour and an increase in positive behaviour, then you win £50,000. And who decides who wins the £50,000? Simple. Start a hashtag. I suggest be the better Brit. Then go nuts creating. If we can trace the first use of the word selfie to Nathan Hope on the 13th of September 2002, then we should be able to track how influential each campaign was in promoting positive behaviour and reducing reprehensible student behaviour, as well as who started the campaign. If you've made the biggest positive impact, you win the £50,000 prize that year. The remaining £199,950,000 of the annual budget goes to improving some of the issues explored in Episode 3, such as potholes, deteriorating schools, and crumbling infrastructure. And that's it. That's my solution. It doesn't increase spending at all. It just takes an existing, now unused Ofsted budget and spends 0.025% of that sum to fuel a social campaign. And the rest is to improve the quality of schools in the nation. And most importantly, I believe that it could genuinely improve the experience of teaching in England if implemented. A major cause of misbehaviour is that kids nowadays are shameless, so they're indifferent to being a disgrace. This brings it back in a medium that the target audience consumes relentlessly, memes and social media, and engineers their behaviour back to what everyone misses about the British: decorum. A likely response to my plan could sound something like this.
We can't have a social campaign to influence behaviour of young people. That's shaming and bullying, and we're better than that in Britain. We have a culture of trust, and change needs to come through conversation.
Thankfully, this isn't a real concern because, surprise, you're already living under at least 2 social campaigns designed to influence the behaviour of young people. First, the Department of Education is using influencers to boost school attendance. A scheme using local influencers to share positive messages on attendance as part of a government communications push could be rolled out nationwide. The problem with this approach is that it thinks it can reach English people with positivity. That's ridiculous. Like I've shown in episode 2, English people are not nice people. So asking them to just be kind and go to school isn't going to work. This problem can only be solved by fighting fire with fire. You need to shame the behavior you want to eliminate. It's not called bullying, it's called
motivating.
And the second social campaign is almost certainly affecting your kids right now.
It's owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, and Harris says the version that's served to Chinese consumers, called Douyin, is very different from the one available in the West.
In their version of TikTok, if you're under 14 years old, they show you science experiments you can do at home, museum exhibits, patriotism videos, and educational videos. And they also limit it to only 40 minutes per day.
The version served to the West has kids hooked for hours at a time.
There's a survey of preteens in the US and China asking what is the most aspirational career that you want to have? In the US, the number one was influencer.
Social media influencer.
And in China, the number one was astronaut. Again, you allow those two societies to play out for a few generations, I can tell you what your world is going to look like.
And that's how I'd fix the first two challenges. Dissolve Ofsted and shame the misbehavior out of the English through social campaigns. Some of the problems raised in episode 3 will improve as society disciplines itself. Now, let's go from constructive back to critical. Do I believe that the rapid teacher shortage situation in Britain will ever improve? No. Ofsted is too intoxicated with power to let itself dissolve. They'll just get stronger and stronger each year until they're pointing the finger at everyone and everything except themselves. What about behavior? Will that ever improve? No. They're English. They don't have the self-awareness to know that they're the losers who are being shamed in the social campaign. They'll think that they're the exemplars of good behavior, and the whole campaign will be lost on them. They'll betray the mission and use it to bully everyone, wielding the campaign as a weapon to justify their already reprehensible behavior. Plus, their lack of resilience will prevent them from standing around long enough to let the social campaign influence their behavior for the better. They just end up running away like they always do. The campaigns will fail, not because it's a bad idea, but because the British are weak and only God can save them now. That's the social campaign Britain really needs. Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ promised that he is going to return to the earth. And ladies and gentlemen, Jesus Christ is going to keep that promise. Are you ready? The hope of the coming of Christ ought to make us walk as disciples of the Lord Jesus Christ. We are to be salt, and we are to be light in the world. And we are to work as though Christ may not come for 1,000 years. But we're to live as though he may come tonight. No matter what your sin, no matter how deep in sin you've been, God is in the forgiving business because of what Christ did on the cross. I'm not going to heaven because I'm good. I'm not going to heaven because I preached to thousands of people. I'm going to heaven like anybody else by the way of the cross, where Christ died for me.
If I were the Prince of Darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions, just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
But with there being no chance of the situation improving, in my opinion, what will happen next? Here's personally what I think will happen in the last days of schooling in England. This is grim, but probable. It's England. We're at the 11th hour. Thousands of teachers will quit the profession each term. In response, the government will offer significantly higher financial incentives to anyone who trains to teach, especially for subjects most hard hit by the recruitment crisis, like physics, music, psychology, and foreign languages, which is already happening. In an article published in April 2024, it was announced that teachers to get up to £6,000 extra to teach vital subjects. Currently, they're discussing offering £30,000 to get people to swap careers and teach. This sum will only increase. They will also begin focusing on attracting international teachers with similar incentives, like they're currently doing. Right now, they're offering £10,000 to move here and teach. They'll get much more desperate, and this sum will increase dramatically. All this extra monetary incentive to attract teachers will inevitably result in heavier increases in taxes, which will make families go through a tougher, more chaotic time at home, translating as worse behavior in schools, triggering an even greater teacher exodus to escape the disgusting behavior of the pupils. As the classroom decays into lawlessness, more pupils refuse to go to school to escape the chaos, which will put stress on schools, causing them to go into deficit. This will result in teachers being let go to save money, which is already happening. Throughout this spiral, Ofsted will continue to traumatize staff and use the stress and chaos as a way to justify giving itself more funding that would otherwise have gone towards improving the school facilities and conditions. Ofsted will also successfully argue that it needs to extend its reach to gain more power, authority, and influence. Teachers leave to escape the stranglehold. Unions will begin to fight for teachers by organizing more and more strikes to improve their work standards. This will only wedge the divide between parents and schools, leading to even less support from the public. As this is happening, the government, spending taxes like water, will continue to fish for teachers in both foreign and domestic pools. Taxes go up further, families struggle, children misbehave, parents keep their children from school, and teachers flee. A vicious cycle that will just rinse and repeat forever. Trying to reduce the teacher gap, teaching assistants and exam invigilators will have their responsibilities stretched by schools to include duties typically covered by teachers, which is already happening. Teaching assistants routinely cover lessons in England and Wales, survey finds. Hundreds and thousands of pupils in England and Wales are being educated on the cheap by low-paid teaching assistants, covering lessons for teachers who are off sick or have quit, according to a new research. As the crisis worsens, crazier solutions will begin to look reasonable in their despair, like plugging the teacher gaps by hiring younger, less experienced teenage teachers, which is already being discussed. Teach First, the largest teacher training program in the UK, announced this week that in order to tackle this recruitment crisis, it will consider being part of a new apprenticeship scheme for trainees as young as 18. But that's nothing compared to the Department of Education's latest tactic to recruit teachers, the Scouts. I'm not kidding. Scouting for Teachers, Department of Education's latest recruitment plan revealed. The Department of Education will work with the Scouts to create age-appropriate activities that inspire young people to consider a career in teaching by linking to relevant badges and awards. But a Department of Education spokesperson said the Scouts scheme will raise awareness of teaching as a potential career choice for young people, helping to build a pipeline of future candidates for initial teacher training. As the crisis worsens, these ideas will be more and more drastic. In the meantime, the subjects that are struggling to recruit will begin to suffer the most. Take music, for example. The ongoing shortage of music teachers will escalate into a broader trend of music being phased out of the curriculum altogether, which is already happening. This declining emphasis on music will snowball until you risk losing traditional institutions, like the Oxford Choir, as a result of inadequate staffing and resources, which is already happening. Eventually, schools will stop offering music and other less popular and harder to recruit subjects altogether, such as physics, psychology, drama, food tech, and design and technology, which is already happening with modern foreign languages. Languages could fall off school curriculum in a decade, warns Head. A problem of suitably qualified teachers lead to perfect storm. And to psychology, the curious case of the missing psychology teachers. The government will get desperate and offer thousands of pounds to teachers of dead or non-core subjects like PE, food tech, art, and even history and geography to retrain to teach math, English, and science. Attendance will become so poor that schools will begin to transition into exclusively online learning as a way to justify keeping their doors open. Whole schools will have no teachers left, relying on supply teachers and teachers from other schools, leading to parents striking and protesting the lack of schools, which is already happening. Parents stage protests outside North Staffordshire School after every teacher leaves. Parents are staging protests outside North Staffordshire School amid claims all teachers, teaching assistants, and a receptionist have left. They claim lessons at Hutchinson Memorial CE First School in Checkley near Cheadle are instead being taught by supply teachers and staff brought in from another school within the Multi-Academy Trust. Staff shortages will result in schools closing down all across the nation, with both parents and teachers protesting for better conditions. In the meantime, as the education system in Britain quickly crumbles into nothing, Rishi Sunak will have exactly what he needs to justify bringing his vision to life. Every child in Britain could have a robot for a personal tutor, says Sunak. The idea is to use artificial intelligence and robotics to tailor learning experiences to individual students based on their needs, potentially revolutionizing the education system. These robots will replace at least 80% of all teachers in Britain, with some schools forced to shut down due to lack of teachers and attending pupils, with the schools later being converted into apartments, prisons, retirement villages, or migrant facilities. And throughout this whole collapse, the media will push the snooze button on this issue, blaming teachers and politicians, with the loudest voices blaming the wrong things like climate change, white supremacy, diversity, and mental health awareness, distracting from the true cause of the problems. And as England drifts further and further away from its former glory, he'll forever wonder what happened to its schools. Now, my objective is to spare non-UK teachers from the trauma of teaching in England and this inevitable collapse of British education by doing everything I can to slow the influx of international teachers. You don't deserve them. If England has no problem doing nothing about poor behaviour, allowing themselves to be dominated by a clueless, overpowered organisation, and approach everything with a gentle, non-assertive touch, while lying to the unsuspecting public about what teaching is like through their deceptive Get Into Teaching campaign, then England needs to accept the seeds it sowed and leave the rest of the world alone. So, with there being no real chance of teaching in England being anything other than an absolute nightmare that you should avoid, one so traumatizing that teachers use antidepressants and alcohol to cope with work. Nearly 9 in 10 teachers believe their job has adversely affected their mental health in the last 12 months, according to a union poll. Now, I am going to keep track of the school situation in England. If it ever changes for the better and suddenly becomes a good place to live and work, I'll upload a video right here, confirming the changes and how it's improved. Otherwise, you'll get a short video confirming that nothing has changed, and it's still a horrible prospect teaching in England. And before I let you go, this 4-part series is the alarm, and those who try to downplay the problems are the snooze button. About time England wakes up. Thank you for watching, please consider subscribing, and goodbye.